we've got a quick little overview of how our air suspension, our air ride is going to be set up. I've kind of started working on it, and we'll just go through a little bit more before I get too far into it, and then you can see kind of what we're going to do. This is going to be kind of a poor man's setup. Plenty of high dollar setups on the internet. Excuse me. I've been just kind of scouring some Facebook groups. There's one, I can't think of the name of it now, Ford Galaxies and custom lowriders or something like that. I'll come up with that, maybe type it out for you. But some real good guys in there, plenty of ideas, and I'm just kind of copying their setup. I'm going to do the control a little bit differently, and the way I've done it maybe is a little different. But I purchased a lot of stuff from the kind of the discount guy down in Arizona, just a do-it-yourself mount kit, and then some eBay compressor and bags. These I can't find a part number on them to tell who made these bags, so generally I guess if you're not proud enough to put your name on them, might be junk, and I might find with the amount of air that I need for my ride height that it's not going to be smooth enough, and I may be replacing these bags, but it'll at least get it mocked up. It'll get me moving around, and if I need to put different bags in there, that's not going to take a ton of work. So we'll just look at what we've got so far here. Pardon the mess here. This is the collection point for everything I've collected so far, and we're trying to get it put on the car here in somewhat of an order. But we've got a stainless 3-gallon tank. The rear is going to be a Ride Tech Aero Relief kit. So we'll remove a couple of leaf springs. They'll basically just be axle positioning at that point, and then these will sit on the remaining 2 springs and pretty much allow us to drop to our bump stops. I've got a bunch of fittings. I don't know, I can't really show you, I guess, my idea at this point. Well, we'll show you the components first. This is a copycat of the Air Ride, or let's see, I believe the Ride Tech valve. Maybe it is the same one, I don't know, but this was certainly much cheaper. And then I'm going to go with, straight out of there, I'm going to put a pressure sending unit, and then I've got dual reading pressure gauges, and I'm just going to run it off of pressure. I guess the best way to do it would be off of height with presets, but that would be considerably more expensive. I've got a bunch of fittings here, got a bunch more ordered, and we'll get through the setup of that. Here's the cheap eBay bag. I bought the compressor and the bag used, so we'll give that a try. Probably be upgrading once we know what we're doing, which I clearly do not at this point. But here is my control arm, and I've just welded the bottom plate. This is just a do-it-yourself kit. If you're looking at Air Ride, you've seen these kits. A couple chunks of 4-inch tube. These were 5-inch long when I got them. I cut them down to just a little under 4-inch. It'll be just slightly over 4. Want to get it welded together. Here's the top plate that is going to sit on the airbag. This will be welded in here. It does come with a stud that will weld into this hole. It'll go right up into our original shock hole, and then I'll drill another hole right beside for my airline to run through. I don't have these fittings yet, but I don't have this built yet either. So this is going to go, if I can find a flashlight. Here's our spring pocket, which will no longer have a spring. There's our hole in the top for the shock. That will have just a stud going through it. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a view so I can get everybody sick. Once this is welded together, we'll have a stud going up through that hole, sit in there just like that, and then our airbag will sit on the lower control arm, get bolted in there. So that is how that setup is going to work. So we'll get to work putting this together. Okay, we are going to weld some airbag cups. I've cut them to the right size. I've got them kind of sitting here how I want to do it, and we'll do a little welding. There's a couple ways that you can end up with poor welds. You can be a poor welder, which I usually am. Also, you could have kind of a poor welder, which I have. This is something I ended up with in a trade, and it does what I need it to do. It's got gas. If I need to do real, heavier welding, I guess this says it's good for up to 1/4 inch. That's questionable. Maybe these are going to be pinched in where they can't move. I'm pretty much just positioning them, but I will go to work and use our miller at work if I need to do something heavier than this. So we will get to it. Also, if it's grilling clearance season at Walmart, which maybe you don't ever have down south, but we do up north, you pick up some grilling gloves for $4 a pair, and it works very nicely for welding. So we've got a couple of welds on here. I'm no certified welder, but that's going to hold this thing together so that it can sit up in there in between the frame and the spring. That's not going to go anywhere, and we just have to weld our stud in here. Okay, that is obviously not going to sit right on our airbag, top of our airbag. That'll get ground back down. I have read of guys that just have the cup, no stud, and it just kind of floats around in there and seems to work fine, but I did want a little bit to hold it in, so this stud is just going to hold that up into the cup in the frame, keep it from going anywhere. We'll grind that smooth and get these painted up, build our second one, get them installed. Okay, we got our spring cups, got our studs welded in there. I did have to build that up, so I ground that back smooth because our airbag will be sitting right there. These plates, this kit actually works really nice, I guess, for lining it up anyway, because the bolt hole, they're narrower. The holes where our airbag fitting go in wider, so the bigger holes fit right to the outside of this pipe. The narrower holes fit right to the inside. So it's very simple to just set this plate on, center it up. I tacked it in place and then came around and burned it on there. So we'll get these in primer and ready for some paint. Hey guys, just thinking about my airline tubing for our air ride, and just wondering, I don't see any markings on this. It's something that I had found. It does not say it's DOT. I was just kind of curious what we could do with it. So I put a Schrader valve, one of my fittings. Wouldn't hurt to test these fittings. I guess you never know what you're getting when you order stuff online. But I've done this once, so hopefully we don't have anything blow up. I could have done it on camera, I guess, but I decided just to show it after I figured out what was going on. But I have just put a gauge on here. I have air pressure in there. We're at about 130 psi, and I believe my system, the cutout on it is 120. I'm going to double check that, but this is at 130. My fitting seems to be holding, the airline seems to be holding, so I think we're good to go. Okay, we're going to assemble our front bags here. I'm running all of 3/8 airline, so I have fittings here. These will be inside of these cups up where I'll never be able to get to these without disassembling the front suspension. And they come with some sort of a liquid sealant on there already. I'm going to just go ahead and put a little more, just because I guess we don't want anything to leak ever, but I for sure don't need these leaking. These are used airbags that I got on eBay. So I pulled some other fittings out of them. Also, when you're looking for Loctite 545 on eBay and you find some 50 milliliter bottle for $16, everyone else wants $30 to $40, you'll probably get a bottle like this that's about half full, and looks like somebody printed this label out at home and stuck it on there. That fitting is on. Our cups have been sitting here for a couple weeks, collecting dirt. Got a flat washer and a lock washer. My fingers are too fat. Okay, we've got a situation here, a bad one. We've assembled our airbags and cups, put some air pressure to them, and it leaks right down. Now this line, I tried the other day, and it seemed to hold just fine. I don't think we have a problem with our line. I guess this is why we check it before we go ahead and throw it in the car. If we had a reality TV show, this is something we could use for right when the customer's coming, or we've got a big deadline. Huge problem. Probably should make something to test one at a time, but we'll get through it. Now, my wife has donated some warm vanilla sugar hand soap because I don't have a spray bottle here. And it's fairly inconclusive. We have some answers on our airbags that wouldn't hold air, or our fittings that wouldn't hold air. Have some new fittings that hold air just fine. I left these sitting overnight just to make sure we had air pressure, but the company that I got these from, or the seller on eBay, advertised them as 3/8 or 10 millimeter. These have a little 10. I don't know if that's gonna focus on there or not. Right on the bottom there's a little 10 on there. I hadn't noticed that before. I don't do a lot of work with this sort of stuff, but the fittings that I did have that were holding air previously all have a 3/8 on them. So once I noticed that, went to town, grabbed a few 3/8 by 1/2 inch pipe thread, put them in here, and they hold just fine. So that should work well. Today we're going to try to get some holes drilled where those lines will come up through, and then do some assembly. Next up is our air spring. Here's a quick view of our passenger side of the airbag install, just somewhat for my own reference, and yeah, I guess anybody else that wants to see it. Here it's hanging just kind of by the weight of the control arm. Control arms aren't tight by any means, but we have our cup mounted up in there. Sits into the spring pocket a little ways, and then under here we have it just bolted in to the plate that we welded into our control arm. And then I guess what I want to see, maybe what everybody else wants to see, we can compress up to our bump stop. So we'll get the control arm on, or we'll get the spindle on there, and then we'll use a jack and do the same thing. Hey pups, how are you? Huh? You want to make an appearance on camera? Okay, you can go shed somewhere else. Yuck.